Welcome to the Run for God Run Club, where you will find God in a runner's space.
Welcome to the Run for God Run Club. This is your one stop each week to be motivated and inspired to get off the couch and onto the running trail, where you can, in turn, inspire others to do the same. Let's learn, laugh, and leap into running together, giving God the glory for what we were able to do in His name. Amen. I am your running host, Dean Thompson. What time is it? Well, it's our favorite time of the week because we get to join in as we talk about running and faith. And of course, joining me again is Run for God founder, Mitchell Hollis.
Thanks for having me, Dean.
Well, I went to the Big Beach Marathon.
Well, how was it?
It was awesome.
You did pretty good.
I
saw. Congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Second overall.
Yeah.
Pretty good time.
Yeah.
Or incredible time for somebody like me, but
for an old man,
a guy that can't even think about running that time. But yeah, good job.
Yeah, you know what? It really, as I was kind of just soaking it up, and I posted on Facebook a picture of that. That picture was a picture of that morning. I mean, that was the sunrise that morning.
Oh, wow.
It was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I just felt God just smiling on everything that was going on, and it was fun. And we're going to talk more about it. But
well, if you're listening out there and you're wondering why we're talking about the Big Beach Marathon, that's actually the graduating race for the Couch to Marathon, which started this past January. And by the way, it's not too late. If you have any fitness level at all, you can go to runforgod.com, join us for the Couch to Marathon journey, which will end at that race in 2023. So yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more here to come. But by the way, we're going to talk about our sponsor for this week. Again, if you have a business out there and you would like to sponsor Run for God, support us and allow us to support your business, send an email to runlanehollis@gmail.com. Lane will get you all the information on that. But this week's sponsor is our good friend Hank at Hank's Carpet and Flooring. Is your one stop for all your flooring needs. Hank stocks a huge selection of name brand flooring, carpet, luxury, vinyl plank, waterproof flooring, and exclusive Lola Pate area rug collection. Voted North Georgia's best of the best 8 straight years and People's Choice winner for the past 2. Great flooring, great prices. Why shop anywhere else? Visit Hank's Carpet and Flooring and their giant showroom or hankscarpet.com for red hot deals. You know, I'm friends with Hank on Facebook, and I saw a post. I think it was his wife might have posted it, but it was a picture of Hank and a 3 or 4 year old.
Yeah.
And Hank is a big fisherman, hunter. You know, he's always wearing his Wranglers and cowboy boots. And this kid was kind of dressed like Hank. And I got to reading the caption, and this couple had stopped in. They weren't even from around here, but she was pregnant, and they were pretty close to having the baby. And they were driving down the interstate and trying to decide. They were having the conversation, what are we going to name our son when he comes? And they were driving down the interstate, and they passed Hank's billboard, and it said Hank's Carpet. And the husband said, what about Hank? And they said, okay, so we're naming him Hank. So they came back these years later and got a picture of Hank and Hank together. And of course, Hank Pitts knew nothing about this, so it was kind of funny to see that.
What a cool story.
Yeah, so if you live around here or you need carpet or flooring for your house, really anywhere you live, give them a call over there. Great family. I've known them forever and huge supporters of Run for God. So thanks to Hank and all the team over there for supporting us.
That's awesome. Talk about Facebook. Let's talk about a Facebook post we had from this past week. And this one comes from Julie Wicker, which, again, if you've been on Facebook, you know who she
Another
is.
Household name.
And you know that she went through some tough struggles here recently. And so this is her post. So much goodness in today. I had my PO appointment today. All my biopsies came back good. No cancer. I'm also healing good. This has been an ongoing battle for 3 years, but has been overwhelming since September. I shared my detour with God on podcast number 89. I have been training for the marathon, not knowing if I could even participate. After today's good news, I was able to register for the Myrtle Beach Marathon on March the 5th. God is so good. I really appreciate all the prayers. After my appointment, I stopped by the water just to breathe and thank God. Hashtag finding joy in the journey. You know, I wanted to bring up this one because it kind of illustrates that we don't have to give up just because there's an immovable object in front of us. Well, I think a lot of times we go through these things where it's clear that we can't keep going on the exact path we want to be on, and there's an obstacle in our way. And so many people look at that obstacle and then turn around and walk away the other way. And that's not what Julie did. What Julie did was she just she put things on hold. She kind of did what she could do. And then once she got on the other side of that obstacle, just in whatever way she could, she's ready to just keep that journey moving. And I think it's just a good model for who we are to be.
Well, and it's a cumulative effect too. If you learn to do that on the obstacle today, then tomorrow the obstacle of today doesn't look so big. It's kind of like training. You know, you throw bigger and bigger and bigger workouts, and many times that's what God will do with us. He'll allow obstacles in our life to strengthen our faith, obviously, you know, just like Julie talks about here. But we've got to learn, you know, in a society where it's so easy to just give up. And we're not called to do that.
That's right.
We're called to push through, to get over the obstacles and to grow our faith in the process. And that's, you know, we've talked about it so many times on this podcast, is that's where real faith is built. It's not in the good times. It's in the obstacles, the hard times, the diagnoses, the death in the families. It's your faith is really built, tested, and built better during those times. And that's kudos to Julie for sharing this, number one, but also for pushing through this. Because I can only imagine what she's gone through the past 3 years, and to see where she's at now, still posting on Run Club, which means she's busting through those barriers.
Yes.
And so awesome for her.
Yeah, and I saw another post I received an email and saw the post from another Run Club member who the doctor is telling her she can't run, and that, you know, she shouldn't even walk over a 5K because of some problems in her knee, and she's feeling a little defeated. But at the same time, in the background, she's saying, I don't know what I can do, but I'm going to do something. And I just, you know, that God has something for her because of the attitude that she has. You know that on the back end of this thing, that God's going to reveal something to her. If she'll stay on that path and she'll stay determined, God's going to reveal something unbelievable to her, and she's going to do something she never thought she could do, probably something her doctor didn't think she could do. Right. And it's going to be fantastic when it happens. So sure. That's seeing people on both sides of that. And then seeing Julie having to endure for a moment. The thing about that is that often when we're in the middle of that, I'm sure and Holly's a good example. Again, she did it right. But a lot of times when we're in the middle of that, just like this other lady that I was talking about, we need to realize that God's got us where he wants us in that moment. And a lot of times we think, well, God doesn't want me in this spot where I'm struggling. Well, yes, sometimes he does, because he knows what's on the other side of it. Sure. So, yeah.
Good word.
We did have a trivia question from last week, and it was this one. There's a type of training where the pace can vary from walking to all-out sprinting. The term is a Swedish word for speed play. What is the name of this largely unstructured type of workout? And you mentioned that the high school kids like to snicker when you say the word.
Of course. I think us grown adults like to snicker sometimes at this word.
I think so, too. And the word is, if you don't know, it's fartlek. So it's a Swedish word that does mean it means speed play. And the idea behind a fartlek run is just varied intensities over a distance. So you go out and you're going to run. You can even vary the distance, but let's say you're going to go out and you're going to run 5 miles, and you're just going to play as you go. Basically, you're going to throw some hard running in there. You're going to throw some moderate running in there. You're going to throw some jogging in there, maybe even some walking. But the idea behind a fartlek is that it's supposed to be a replacement for a structured workout, not. And what I hear a lot of people do, and I remember I was talking with one of the athletes that had left the high school and had gone into college, and he said his college coach had him doing a fartlek run, and the fartlek run was running 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute hard, 1 minute easy.
That kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Well, what that is that's an interval workout.
Yeah,
is what that is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's
fartlek is completely unstructured.
Exactly, and that's the idea behind a fartlek. Is it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be all right. The drudgery of the 1 minute one minute on, 1 minute off, the 400 repeats,
sure.
the mile repeats, whatever your workouts are, it's so structured, and it's just fun to go out there and just run hard because you feel like
kind of it's more realistic to race scenarios, especially if you're in a pack and you're really racing people. I know I'll do this with Lane when I moto pace him on the bike. We'll do fartlek workouts, and I know what's coming, but he has no idea. So I'll speed the pace, and his goal is to stay on my wheel. So he didn't really have to think about it, but I'm varying the pace just like you would in a bike race for that instance. But it's the same thing for a running race. It kind of models that speeding up and slowing down, because that's structure is good, but the unstructuredness of these workouts is also good because it's really more realistic to a race scenario.
Yeah. And the cool thing about a fartlek run too is you're training multiple systems.
Sure.
When you're in a fartlek run, because the pace is varied so much. If you do it that way, and if you I don't want to say do it right, because there is no right or wrong way, but then you train that aerobic system, you train the anaerobic system. You're really making yourself a more efficient runner in many ways, including the mental aspect of, a lot of times if I go out and I do a fartlek run, then a lot of times this happens to me all the time. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to run really hard to that telephone pole. When I get close to that telephone pole, I'm like, I can go longer.
Yeah.
And you pick out another telephone pole, and you're like, I'm going to that one. You hammer it down, and it's like, I don't know. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and it helps you because, think about it. Most training runs, you're going out and running a prescribed pace, and you're pretty much doing a flat pace for a certain distance. And a fartlek run allows you to simulate. I mean, how many times have we gotten in a race and we started too fast?
Yeah.
And we had to back it down. Well, kind of training yourself to run a little bit too fast, and then what that feels like, going out and running 5 miles at 10-minute pace is one thing. Going out and running 1 mile at 8-minute pace and then trying to back it down to a 10-minute pace, that 10-minute pace feels completely different after you went out too fast. So it's train. Number one, train yourself what not to do, but also if it happens, here's what I feel like, and you can either learn that lesson or learn to deal with it. One of the two.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's a lot of different creative ways to do fartleks. I mentioned the telephone poles. A lot of people will do that. I'm going to run hard to that telephone pole. You can do it with music. So if you run with music and you enjoy running with music, put the music on, and then every time a song changes, change your pace.
Sure.
You can do it by, a lot of people do it by mailbox. If you live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of houses, you can go from mailbox to mailbox or block to block or something like that. I saw somebody mention a dog park fartlek, where they go to a dog park, and every time they see a dog, they change their pace, and they do it with their dog. I know it's interesting. I've thought about doing it on the Dalton Loop. The Dalton Loop does get a fair number of runners in there. You see runners every once in a while. Well, every time you see a runner, change your pace.
Right.
So you can just be creative. You can do it anyway, and it's fun.
It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be structured.
But at the same time, you're getting some great fitness benefit out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, really cool.
All right, so Dean, we've got this 5K challenge starting April the 3rd. If you've been living under a rock, you haven't seen any of the emails. Some of the Run Club members may not have actually seen much correspondence on this. The non-members for sure have been getting emails and correspondence about this. But we are starting a virtual 5K challenge starting April the 3rd. Very similar to the marathon challenge, where everything is done online. We release videos every Sunday evening, and you can go through, but you have this group as your support system. So if you're out there, you're not a member of Run Club, maybe you just listen to this podcast, go to runforgod.com and click on upcoming challenges. You'll see the marathon challenge, which is ongoing right now, but you'll also see the 5K challenge starting April the 3rd. go on there and check it out. We have tons of information on what it's all about, what you need to be doing. It's going to be an incredible time. We've never done this with the 5K challenge. But all of you marathon people out there who are going through the marathon challenge right now, here's your chance to start your own club in your community. Maybe the marathon challenge was a little bit too much to take on. Well, here's a 12-week program for you. Go get 5, 10, 15, 500, whoever you are, and start a class April the 3rd. It can be as simple. We said this back in the marathon, but it doesn't. I don't want to discount it by saying you don't have to put a lot of thought into it, but don't put too much thought into it. It really is as simple as getting some people together, watching the video, having the faith discussions around that video, and then heading out for a run. It really is. Don't complicate it. Don't make your life miserable and just add one more thing on your plate, because I know we're all so busy. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it to some people at your house or at your church watching the video, going out for a run, and you can absolutely change the lives of some people in your community. But more than that, it's going to change your life, leading people through this. It's going to give you a whole different perspective on this sport. So there it is. The 5K challenge starts April the 3rd. If you're a Run Club member, you can go on sign into runforgod.com, click on the upcoming challenges, and you can find out all that information too. But we want you to join us.
You know what, the dynamic that I'm thinking about that I think is going to be fun to watch is that the dynamic of those people who are basically right at the end of their 5K challenge journey are going to see these people who are just starting their 5K challenge journey, and now they're veterans. Yeah. And so now they can encourage them, because somebody's going to, you know how it is, people post and people are going to post on the Facebook page and they're going to say, man, I did that first week's workouts and man, that was tough. And there's going to be somebody who's going to say, I was there just 12 weeks ago and you can do it. I can't wait to see that.
But think about, what this group has meant to you, what this sport has meant to you thus far. If you're just starting the marathon challenge, I've already seen the comments of people's perspective on life has already changed as a result of what they're learning through this process. We don't need to hide that. It's kind of like the gospel. We're not meant to take all this information in and hide it. Go out there and share it with people. Get others involved. You know what it's done for you. You know the change that it's already made in you. Go get some other people plugged in. Not only will you be helping them, but you'll be holding yourself accountable. Yeah. There's no better way to hold yourself accountable. It's kind of like, the best way to get out of debt is to teach a Dave Ramsey course. There's no better way to hold yourself accountable in your own running than to start teaching about it. Yeah. And we do most of the heavy lifting. You don't have to get up and give long explanations of the classes anymore. We're doing all that for you. We're just asking you to spark the conversations afterwards. Yeah. And it's really that easy. And go to runforgod.com, click on upcoming challenges and find out more. We'll be starting April the 3rd. Can't wait. Yeah.
Now, if you haven't listened to J Radio, listen, if it weren't for J Radio, this podcast would be a lot tougher for us to do. I mean,
I don't know that we would have figured it out.
I don't think so.
That's way over our head. That's way above our pay grade.
They're technical gurus.
They are.
They know how to do stuff. And if it weren't for them, there would be no Run for God Run Club podcast. Sure. And so go out there and support J Radio.
As a mom, I want to make sure we choose a cereal that's not entirely derived from sugar. Their car seats have to be nationally CPS certified, and their first car has to have every possible safety feature known to man. I just want to do my best to make sure that they're safe. One thing I don't have to worry about is the content they hear on J Radio. Not only do they love the music, but I know it's only going to be a positive message that I would approve of. Now, if I could just figure out how to get my youngest from sticking everything up his nose.
Sign up at jradio.com and download the new J Radio app in your app store.
All right, we're back. And, these Thursday nights have become pretty big, haven't they?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a lot of folks tuning in on Thursday nights. And
I remember when you started, there's like 10 people on there.
Yeah.
And I think there was like 120, 130 when I tuned in last Thursday night. So,
yeah.
A lot of good information on there.
Yeah, well, and hopefully we're giving you what you want. If you got some other ideas, and let me know what you want to hear. But it's also a good time just to ask some questions. And we've had some really good questions.
It's kind of like the fartlek night.
It is. It's a little bit
just whatever comes.
That's right.
The no structure.
That's exactly right. That's a good way to put it. So if you have other questions that specifically, you can always email me at dean@runforgod.com. Again, I've said this before. Sometimes sometimes it may be 20 minutes later I'll respond to you, and sometimes it may be 3 days later that I respond to you. But I will get to you.
Sure.
And if I don't, email me again, and don't think you're bugging me, because that means I got buried and I missed it somehow. So don't feel bad about that. Okay. But yeah, we just want to help out. We want your journey on this couch to marathon. If you're doing that, on the 5K challenge, if you're whatever your challenge is right now, we want to be helpful and we want to try to help with that. So let us know how we can do that. So I'm going to get a chance to do something crazy coming up real soon. Matter of fact, I think this podcast will come out maybe the day after I do this. So I'm going to be running a 4x800 meter relay with 3 other old guys that are in my age group. And we're going to try to set the American record for the 4x800 meter relay.
That is pretty cool.
It's going to be pretty fun to be a part of it. We got one guy from Colorado. We got 2 guys from Texas, and then me running this thing. So
tell me how this came about. I've heard bits and pieces, but you just got a phone call kind of out of the blue, didn't you?
I did. What happened was apparently they've been planning this for a long time, and they had 4 guys that were going to do it, and they had everything was set. Well, apparently one of the guys really wasn't training very well. And he was kind of not being...
always have that one guy.
Yeah. And he wasn't really being straightforward. I don't know what happened with it. I just know they kind of kicked the guy out of the group and said, we need another guy. And so one of the guys in the group, he thought about me. We had met at the USATF track championships, and he thought about me. And so he called me and he said, hey, would you like to do this thing? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to travel all the way to Houston to run for less than 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot going on, and then I'm like, but that's pretty cool to be a part of. And so I finally decided, I said, well, Al, let me gauge it. I'm going to run it by Debbie. Mm-hmm. And so I asked Debbie, I said, here's the deal. And she said, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of encouraging. She knows how much I got going on, but she also knows this would be a pretty cool thing to be a part of. So
but you told me yesterday you've also been looking at another record that you could potentially break.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because that even steps it up another notch or 2 higher.
It does, and the world. I honestly think if everybody hits their goal, then we'll be within 10 seconds of the world record, which is held by 4 guys from Spain. And so
now this is an age group.
It's
record.
an age group thing.
Yeah.
It's an age group. So this is 55 to
55-59
59-year-old age group.
So you're not competing against the Diamond League guys.
That's right, because that would look silly. And I mean, you never know. You never know how these things are going to go. More often than not, the people, there's at least a couple that don't hit their goal and a couple that do. So more than likely, we're going to be 10 to 15 to 20 seconds off of the world record. But who knows? Everybody runs great that day. Everybody surpasses what they think they can run.
So have you told the other 3 guys about the world record time?
Oh, they know.
They know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else brought it up because I said I thought we could run 9:40, and one of the guys said, "Well, the world record's only 9:30." I'm like, "Man, that's close. That's close."
And when is this taking place?
It's taking place February the 13th, the day before Valentine's Day.
Well, this podcast comes out on February 14th.
14th. That's right. Yep. So by the time this comes out, maybe
we will have an update on the Run Club group page.
I may have an American record.
That would be really cool.
That would be, yeah.
Well, good luck, Dean.
Well, thank you. All right, the story this week is from Russell Oravec. And once again, a name that everybody knows if you've been on the Facebook page. And, he and his wife, Tracy, they're just precious people. And I love them. And his story is called God's Road for Me to Follow. And if you've seen him on Facebook, you know that he starts every post with one word. Well, he starts everything that way, and he started his story that way as well. So let me start with this. Well, my running journey started about 21 years ago when I first got married to my wife, Tracy. And at that time, we were going to church, but we're not running for God. I was running for myself. We were living in transition housing through the YWCA, and I was seeing a counselor. He asked about my goals, and I told him I wanted to run a marathon someday. One thing led to another, and I started training. He was able to get me entered into a couple of 5Ks and a 10K. I did that and a little more for a couple of years when during one race I felt a pain in my left thigh, but I didn't think anything of it. I ran another half marathon before I realized that I had torn some ligaments in my thigh, and I was told that I would not be able to run again without wrapping my thigh securely. I had to take 6 months off to allow it to heal. So my running was put aside, and I thought my goal was over. So I moved on. As the years went by, I never thought of running again until after we moved to Florida about 11 years later. We started going to Westwood Baptist Church and got our kids into the youth programs, and we started going to church regularly on Sundays. At some point, I started thinking that one goal that had slipped by me. About 3 months later, I found out that a lady in our church was leading a Run for God program. I looked at Tracy and said, "This can't be." But sure enough, they were starting to train for a 5K and have a devotion weekly. I decided to go see what it was all about. I told myself that I would pray about it and see where the Lord leads me to go. I started the training and listened to the videos, and I was thinking back to when I started running over 20 years ago. I found out what was missing and why things had happened the way they did. The problem was that I was doing it all for me and not for my Lord Jesus Christ. I wasn't praising Him for what I did or anything. But I knew when I started this Run for God program, that's what the Lord wanted me to do. So now the next hurdle was that I knew what I was told by my doctor in Maine about my thigh. I told myself, I'm going to do this and leave my thigh in the Lord's hands. As you can see, I'm still running. I did 2 5Ks and then found out that Run for God was going to be doing a half marathon in August of 2020. So I started training for it and was praising God for every step that I took. But on June 24th of 2020, I was on my way home from work and I had a car accident in which I totaled my car and injured my back, neck, arm, and right side. I was told that if it weren't for my seatbelt, the airbag, and the good Lord above, I wouldn't be here today. I was seeing a chiropractor for my injuries after seeing my regular doctor and was still hoping to be able to run the half marathon for Run for God. But God had other plans, and I didn't get to run it. So I was trying to figure out what He had in mind for me. So I just kept praying about it, doing what I could for training with the condition I was going through with my injuries. About a month or two after that race, I saw a post on Facebook for the Run for God Couch to Marathon program starting in January. I felt that was what God wanted me to do, so I signed up, became a member, and I went through the program, posting my progress and getting a ton of comments and encouragement back. Now, mind you, I have had my ups and downs going through the program. But I don't think I would have ever made it to my goal of running a marathon without this group to help me get through with my Lord and Savior, leading me through every step and every challenge. After that, I accomplished my goal and ran the Disney Marathon this past Sunday. I might not have finished with the time I wanted, but with God's help and this group, I did it. And now that I have done it, my wife Tracy is now signed up to walk the Couch to Marathon program, and I'm going to walk right with her. Of course, I'll still do my running as well. I would like to thank my God for bringing me to this group. And with this group, my wife and I are growing closer to God. And my children are also getting out and walking too. I would like to thank Mitchell for creating this group and for Dean's coaching and for our Lord and Savior for leading in everything I do. Until next time, God bless and go shine your light.
Great sign off, Russell. I like it.
You have to love the enthusiasm of this couple.
Yeah.
They're so supportive of one another.
Yeah.
And when we were in at Disney, we met them there. Sure. We had met them prior to that, but we met them there. And Russell is Tracy's a talker, and so she when she has something to say, she goes after it.
She can't get it out fast enough.
Right, exactly. And Russell's like he's a little bit more laid back. So Tracy will and Russell he'll just kind of fade in the background for just a minute. He'll wait till she's done, and then he'll pounce, and then he'll go.
Yeah. When we got there, we actually got there quite a bit early for that meetup. Well, they were the first ones that they were there before we were. And we pulled up, and they jumped out of the car, and they're just they're a lot of fun.
They have been such a bright, shining light too. The way that they post, the way that Russell posts, and Tracy too. They both post, and Tracy's so proud of Russell.
Yeah,
and that's so awesome to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's. I know we don't talk about marriage on here much, but that's the picture of marriage is us really supporting one another. Right. And some people make that obvious. Others, I know your wife is hugely supportive of you. She doesn't do it in public and get fired up and excited about it and put it in everybody's face. But man, how about all of our spouses and how they just
we all
encourage us? Well, we did. Yep. And they've been married 21 years. That's pretty awesome. Scripture passage number 1. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm not sure how many times we can talk about this verse.
We just hang out with Paul, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. But the one thing that I wanted to point out as it relates at least to Russell's story, we have to be careful not to allow things get in our way and completely derail us. And you saw that with Russell, is he had this problem with his thigh, and he really did. He allowed that to get in his way. Now, God had a reason for that in his case. Right? God had a reason because as he points out through this story, he was running for Russell and he felt and he knew he needed a different focus. And that's what God instilled in him over that time in between when he wasn't running. But so often, this is so different from what Julie did, right? Julie she kept doing what she could. And in this case, it took him 6 months to get over it. He could have started back to running, but at that point it was like, what's the point? I'd worked so hard to get to where I was. So it's a neat story because how God intervened in all of this.
Well, I mean, we get it in our head, and I don't really know where this comes from. I've done it. I think we've all done it. But we start into something that takes time, like a running program, or it could be a fast. It could be a lot of different things that happens over a period of time, and we stub our toe one spot.
Yeah.
We miss one workout. We eat that wrong thing if we're on a fast. We think we've blown it, and we just hop off the wagon and think, what's it all for now? But that is so wrong. Those are opportunities. Not that we want to stub our toe. Not that we want to accidentally whatever or miss that workout, but we need to look at those as opportunities, not only for grace for ourselves, which many times we're last to extend grace to our own self. That's the last person we tend to extend grace for. I know I'm hard on myself.
Yeah.
But it's also an opportunity. We should look at it as an opportunity to not have that again and to learn the skill of overcoming.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that workout. I'm not going to try to play catch up, which that's a whole nother problem when people try to play catch up. Forget about it.
Yeah. And
start over the next day. Start again the next day. But that's something that's fleeing in our society.
Yeah.
You messed up, you might as well, and that's from the devil. It is.
Well, and I blame social media for it. And the reason why I blame social media is that social media, it makes it look like people never have problems.
Right.
Because they're only posting their highlight reel, as we've mentioned before. Think about this. Paul wrote some great letters and some great books of the Bible. And, you know, we know about Paul's life before he became Paul, but
we know about Saul.
We know about Saul, and we know how bad he was. And he admits that, and he talks about how bad he was. But he doesn't focus really in any of his letters. He doesn't really focus on the failings that he has in those moments.
Sure.
But you know he had them. Listen, I'm like Paul in a lot of ways. I'm super passionate about stuff, and I say stuff I shouldn't say, and I do it all the time, and I regret it afterwards. And I know I'm 120% sure that Paul shot back at some people that said something he didn't like, and he didn't quit, and he didn't stop sharing the gospel, and he didn't quit supporting all of these other churches just because he had these outbursts and did things that God wasn't pleased with. And I think we look at Paul and we think, well, Paul was perfect. No.
Well, and I think it's, you know, now that you're saying that, it makes you think about where we're at today in the whole cancel culture. You know, society tries to, it's kind of almost backwards in thinking, but society almost has made Christians out to be perfect.
Yeah.
So that when they do fail, and they're going to, that they need to be canceled. Mm-hmm. You're a hypocrite. Yes, we're all hypocrites.
Yeah.
It's by the grace of God that we're going to heaven.
Yep.
But we have to understand that we are not perfect people, and we don't need to portray ourselves as perfect. If that's a whole nother discussion, that if you're out there portraying yourself as perfect, you're just setting yourself up because you're going to mess up. It's not if, it's when. And thank God we've got a God who's forgiving and has grace and mercy and everything that we don't deserve. But you're right. We've got to learn to get through those times of being called names, maybe rightfully so. You know, somebody calls you a hypocrite. That can hurt.
Yeah.
But there again, we've talked about you on the run that time with the dogs, and you said something you shouldn't have said. You could have easily went back and sulked and thought, you know, I messed up. I ruined my Christian walk right there. But no, you looked at it as an opportunity to turn around and go back to those people and let them know what a real Christ follower looks like. And that's somebody who does mess up, but they come back and they make it right. Yeah. And those are the things that we don't want to have, those scenarios. But when we do, we need to look at them as opportunities. And that's exactly what Russell did. That's exactly what Julie did. We see so many people, modern day, not the Pauls, you know, not the people of Bible times, real modern day people who are just like Paul. We mess up, but we can extend God's kingdom even through our mess up at times.
Yeah.
But we've got to keep going to do that.
Well, and at the risk of sounding political, I want to say this, that you mentioned cancel culture and this whole idea of canceling people. I don't care what your political persuasion is, but when somebody says something that's not good, that they shouldn't have said, but they come back and they apologize for it. You know, Jesus tells us we are supposed to forgive in the same way that God forgives us. Mm-hmm. And if we're not forgiving those folks and going, hey, today's a new day, that was yesterday, we need to move on. If we feel like it's appropriate to remove them from their platforms or whatever. Now, some things are really, really bad, and sometimes that may be appropriate, but for the most part, most people, they say something and maybe sometimes it's terrible. We just had a recent public figure who said something that was really bad, and everybody's mad about this whole thing. Grace is important. Grace is really important. And so we if we're going to be the Christians we need to be, Christians are supposed to forgive the same way that God forgives us.
Good word.
1 John 4:19. We love him because he first loved us.
You know, this is kind of going back to what you just talked about. You know, what stings in this is the very next verse. And it said, he who says I love God but hates his brother is a liar. I mean, we use that word flippantly sometimes. I hate this, I hate that. I mean, God is pretty explicit here that love and hate, they don't go together. And if you're openly saying and you have that vile thoughts of someone in your mind and you hate somebody, you don't love God. Because if you love God, you're going to be obedient and you're going to do what he says to do, and that is to love everyone, including those who hate you. And I mean, that weighed heavy on me this morning when I read it, because there's people in my life that I like less than others, but God really put it on my heart this morning. You can like them less, but you need to love them.
That's right.
And love is, there's not degrees of love necessarily. Yeah. We're to love everybody.
Yep. Man, good word. It also says in the verse prior to this that love and fear, they can't coexist. No. And so in this selfish world that we have today, we're all about ourselves very often, but God decided to go first in this case. God said, here's how much I love you, and I want you to love me back.
Dean, you caused me to go to the cross.
Yeah.
But I'm going to love you.
Yes.
How many situations, I've been in situations, I'll admit it, we've all been in these situations where we're like, well, if they come apologize to me first, then I'll forgive them. That's completely unbiblical and wrong.
Yeah.
To even have that mentality.
Yep.
We should be running to the person. Several years back, it was after Run for God started. Early on, I mean, God really woke me up it was a revival we had at our church, and a group came in and they really started just bearing down on forgiveness, and there were some loose ends on my part from my past of people that I needed to go forgive, who had no remorse for what they did, didn't care. And I think you've dealt with this too. God called me to go to them and say, I forgive you. And one particular person, he could care less what I was saying.
Yeah.
But it's like God just gave me peace about it. Yeah. And it was so weird because the old Mitchell just to poke the guy's eyes out. I mean, it's like, yeah, there was no gratefulness. There was nothing. I mean, just blank look. He was like, why are you here? And I said, I forgive you. And it freed me. Didn't free him. It freed me. And we think so many times that we're letting somebody off the hook when we forgive them, but it's us that's being let off the hook when we forgive people. And I don't know. I think I took a rabbit trail there, but
it's a good one.
But yeah, I mean, it all falls in line here with love is the answer to everything, and in love is forgiveness. And
this is why the cross is so important, is because it was a demonstration of how he loved us, regardless of how we treat him.
Sure.
And we need to be eager to reciprocate that feeling. And oftentimes we say it, but are we really eager about it? And I think that's something that's really important. We know people that model this really well. Like, I've got a neighbor who I got a message from last night. We have a Bible study in our neighborhood every Tuesday night, and we couldn't have it on Tuesday night this week because we got several folks that are under the weather, and we don't need to be passing stuff around, especially in this day and time right now. And so we didn't meet. But I got a message from him the next day saying, hey, how's everybody in your house? That's what that is. That's somebody who just, he cares. Mm-hmm. He's demonstrating the same kind of love that God demonstrates. And he does this in a lot of ways, not just that way. He does it in other ways too. Whenever we had snow, he's got a tractor. He showed up on my driveway and shoveled and got my driveway clear for me. He's that kind of guy. He wants to help people. And that's who we're called to be, that kind of person. How about another scripture? For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That's 2 Timothy 1:7. And there's that word fear again. That's a theme throughout the Bible, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The word fear is brought up in the Bible over and over again. And yet, I can't help but think about, as Christians, we continue to talk about how we are persecuted and how people are coming after Christians. And are they? Yeah, there are some people who are doing that. Who do we have on our side? Mm-hmm. We don't need to be fearful of that. Now, do we need to speak up about it? Maybe, depending on the situation.
It needs to be God-led.
But yes.
Many times it's not.
That's right. And when it is God-led,
it's going to look completely different than if it's Mitchell or Dean-led.
Yep. And God wins. We know the end of the book.
Well, I mean, just think about, put yourself, and this is hard to do because it's many times we look at this as stories, but this is real life. Paul was a real person. Think about the circumstances of when Paul was writing this. When Paul was writing this, he understood what was coming. By this point, Paul was in prison. His execution was imminent. Many of his friends had deserted for him. In fact, Luke was the only one still with him at the time he wrote this verse. But yet he was still writing letters to people saying, keep the faith. If there was anybody out there who we would probably understand he's about to be executed, I kind of understand that he's lost his faith.
Yeah.
No, he's doubling down.
If
he gets caught doing what he's doing right then, he could be executed right then. But yet, in the face of all that, friends leaving him, execution imminent, in prison, he's writing to people saying, hey, keep the faith.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so incredible. And if when you're reading all of Paul's writings, he makes mention, he lets you know where he's at, but that's not where he dwells.
Yep.
If I wrote a letter, I mean, I'm just thinking, if I was in prison, all my friends have left, and I'm about to be killed for trusting Jesus Christ, I don't know that my letter would look like his.
Yeah.
It would probably start off something like, this is horrible. I'm hungry. They've beat me. You don't see that with Paul.
None of it. Yeah.
I mean, you just don't. And many times the only way we know that are from other writings of the times. It's not necessarily Paul's writings.
Yeah.
It's other accounts that we know. It's not, Paul's not going to Facebook and saying, woe is me, blah, blah, blah. He's going to Facebook from prison, about to be killed, saying, hey, keep the faith, guys.
Yeah. Keep
the faith. Don't worry about me. I know where I'm headed. Keep doing what I taught you to do.
Yeah. I can't help but think about that. That's bold, right? That's extreme boldness, right? And this past weekend, I was at this big beach marathon, and I was talking with folks at the packet pickup. And there was one lady who came up to me, and she was talking about feeling guilty about being competitive, into competitive running and wanting to be competitive. That, is it right for me to be competitive? As if Christians should be timid about what they do. And of course, I pointed out to her, I said, listen, Jesus turned over the tables in the temple. Do you think that was timid? That's not timid. That's not the picture of who we're supposed to be. The idea that you're passionate about something and go after it hard, I think that's what God wants us to do, is to go after things hard. Now, it depends on how we do that, how we frame it, and everything else. And we don't want that to become all-consuming, and that's all we think about, and that becomes our idol. But short of that, being passionate about running well, there is nothing wrong with that. And it translates to our spiritual life when we do it. And so I just thought that was an interesting comment, because I don't know that I've ever had anybody come to me and say that.
Well, I think some people have this idea that Christians are supposed to be weak. You know, in the Beatitudes, he says, blessed are the meek. It's a very different word than meekness, but many people will conflate that with weakness. Meekness is not weakness.
Yeah.
Meekness is humbleness. It's not weakness. You can have meekness and strength and competitiveness all at the same time.
Yeah.
It comes down to what your attitude is. It's an attitude. But yeah, I mean, strength, competitiveness, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, who are you pointing to is where the difference comes in.
Yeah.
You know, when I think I've probably said it on here before, but when the kids were little and we had the triathlon team and we would go to these races, and, you know, you have some of these teams who they get on the podium, and even at 6-7 years old, some of these kids were getting up there and pointing at me. And I told all of our kids, even kids that weren't my kids, I said, if I ever see you get on that podium and you start pointing at me, and I creamed all y'all, I said, be looking for a shoe, because it's coming through the air and it will knock you off that podium. Because that is what people tend to think that's what strength represents. No, that's not what strength represents. That's not representative of strength. That's representative of cockiness.
Yep.
You can be confident and not be cocky. And
you want to know
Jesus was confident. Paul was very confident, but there was no cockiness in him. Maybe in the Saul days, yes. But Paul knew what the only reason that he was able to do what he did, and it wasn't because of Paul. It was because of Jesus.
You know what strength and meekness looks like? It looks like Jesus hanging on the cross after having been beaten and looking down on people going, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Man, yeah.
I mean, you talk about strength, that's pure, as strong as it comes right there.
Good picture.
Question 1. What is God's purpose for me in running?
I ask myself that every now and then. On those bad runs, you're like, God, why am I doing this?
Well, I think God wants us to glorify him in all that we do. He tells us that very, very clearly in Scripture, and that includes running. And I think it looks different for everybody. So, for me, as a faster runner, it looks different than it does somebody who's going to barely squeak in under the time limit in a marathon. You know, this past week, I ran this big beach marathon. Well, I finished second overall, and I was blessed to be able to do that. And so as I was about to go up to the stage to get my award, I took my jacket off because I had a Run for God shirt on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I want people to see who it is I run for. And I feel like that's a little bit of a stage where I can. It's your yeah. And again, it's podium. Not to glorify me, but to say, this is who I run for right here. And it was so, again, I'm blessed to be able to do that. Not everybody gets to be able to do that. But for some people, it's barely squeaking in under the
all get to do it
line.
In our own way.
Yeah, but somebody else is in the back of the pack, and there's somebody struggling, and they walk up to that person and go, "Come on, come with me. We're going to finish this thing together." You know, and what kind of a witness can that be? And it takes so many thousands of forms. But
yeah, and I mean just the daily grind of the sport of running teaches you so much about overcoming. This is kind of a reoccurring thing in this podcast is overcoming. It's, there are going to be days either you don't feel like it. I mean, just yesterday, I do a little strength workout after my run, and that's just kind of what I do right now. And yesterday there was some stuff going on, and I just barely squeaked my run in, and I had it in my mind, I'm just going to skip the strength for today because I had to go in and get something to eat, and then we were heading off to church. And I just don't like to do strength, any activity after I eat. It just doesn't feel. But I went out and I did it anyway. Mm-hmm. And it's just teaching yourself the discipline of persistence and overcoming obstacles. Yesterday's schedule was my obstacle.
Yeah.
But I forced myself to overcome it. And as soon as I was done with that workout, that last rep, I was like, oh, man, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
And last night, if I hadn't have done it, I'd have been laying in bed thinking, why didn't I do that? I could have found time to do that. And so, it's so much sweeter when many times when you force yourself to do something that you really don't want to do, it always turns out good. You never get done and go, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I regret that. Even if it makes you a couple minutes late to something, which is so far outside of my vocabulary.
Yeah.
I don't like to be late for things, but yesterday I was potentially going to be late, but it was important to get it in. and we'll do the things that we make important in our lives.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, the bottom line is that we're all called to represent Christ in whatever we do, and we have to understand people are watching us, and people are and they're honestly, a lot of times when you're a Christian and you've got a lot of non-Christian folks out there, they're watching too, and they're waiting for you to stumble and make mistakes. It's not fair, but it is what it is. They're not Christians. They don't have the same values, and we shouldn't expect them to. Mm-hmm. And we still have to show the grace to them, even though, but understand too that we have those opportunities to mess up, but we also have those opportunities to make it right and to do other things, and we want to do that as well.
Sure.
So, another question: am I doing all I can for my Lord Jesus Christ? I think about this a little bit like training, right? When you're training, or now if you're a professional, maybe you're doing all the things you can do, right? But the rest of us who have jobs and we have other things we have to do, am I doing all I can do to be the best runner I can be? No, I'm not, because I don't have the time for it. And it's kind of that way I think in our Christian walk. It's if we can't do enough to make up for what he's done for us. And so this whole idea, am I doing enough, is like, no, we're never doing enough. We do this podcast every week, which is fairly significant thing. Is it enough? No, it's not even close.
I think this is where people get hung up sometimes. They get hung up in this legalistic thought that if I can't do enough for God, then I just don't need to do anything. And that derails so many people. It's what we talked about earlier, that we tend to give up.
It does it in running too. It's the same.
Exactly. Yeah. But do you realize I kind of did a little searching and digging when I read that, because this question really intrigued me this morning. It kind of I don't know where Russell's coming from in asking this question, but I know where God led me. Do you realize that in the New Testament alone, in the New Testament, not the legalistic Old Testament, I shouldn't have said it that way. The Old Testament we tend to think of as the law and has a lot of commandments, and you need to do this, this, and this. But let's jump to the New Testament. There are 1,800 commands in the New Testament, things that we need to do. Obedience is our outward expression that we belong to Christ once we are justified by Him. Being a Christian does not mean that we have to keep 1,800 commandments that are given in the New Testament. We can't do it. We can't do it. And I say that confidently because of what Scripture says. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Every day, we're getting better, and we're getting better, and we're getting better. Hebrews 12:2. Ironically, both of these are 12:2. I thought that was pretty cool. Romans 12:2, Hebrews 12:2. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. It didn't say the author of our perfect faith. This is the perfecter of our faith. Yeah. Meaning, this is a process. Jesus, he it's just like our kids. We have so many rules for our kids. Do we expect them to follow every single household rules that we have? I hope they do, but I know that they're not.
Right.
And there's grace. And my hope is that every day they'll get better at cleaning that room and blowing the driveway and doing whatever the list of things that we have for our kids. It's the same way with God. We're called to become more like Christ. We don't get saved and all of a sudden become like Christ.
Yeah.
We're called to become more like Christ. And that is a process that is not complete on this side of glory. We're called to get better and better and better. Just like I kind of disagree with the professional athletes. Even a professional athlete, I don't think can ever do enough.
Yeah.
Because there's always something more. There's always a different exercise or a different workout. But we need to pick our battles.
Yeah.
And we just need to do things that get us a step closer. Professional athletes, they're looking at getting a second or 2 seconds.
Yeah.
There's always more seconds to get. So
Yeah.
we'll never be doing enough. But it's a process, just like training. And that's why I love how this parallels, the sport of running does parallel with our faith, because it's the same philosophy in both. It's a process of getting faster. And there's going to be setbacks. And we have to expect setbacks. We should expect setbacks. We should plan for setbacks and know what we're going to do when those come before they come, because as we've talked about so many times, we're much more likely to have the outcome we want when we plan for it.
Yeah, but make sure that you really celebrate the big ones too, the times you do overcome it. I saw a post that from I think it was yesterday, Emily Cicero. She didn't post a ton on there, but Emily is probably, I don't know this for a fact, she's probably the fastest female runner we have in Run Club. She has a great running background. She's done some amazing things. She texted me or sent me an email. We talked about some things that she could do to try to get back where she wants to be. And Emily posted this very transparent post about how she wasn't feeling it. She didn't want to get on the treadmill, and she lives up where it's cold. It was like 3 degrees. She needed to run on the treadmill, and so she got on that treadmill anyway, and she was really proud of herself just for getting on the treadmill. But she was supposed to run a tempo run, and
those are the ones that are easy to let go.
Yes, but her attitude was, well, at least if I get on the treadmill, then it's all good. You know, I'll at least do something. And we talked about that. It is good to do something. But then God intervenes, and it's so awesome when he does. And she took a step, and then God intervenes to let her take the next step. She's listening to the podcast, and she hears in the podcast, this was a podcast where she said, I said, it's 9:30 at night and you haven't got your workout in. So what? Just because your bedtime's 10 o'clock, just go out there and do it
brutal
anyway.
truth as told by Dean.
Yes. And and that hit her, and she was like, all right, I'm going to do my tempo run. And she did her tempo run, and it was her best one. And so, yeah. I mean, it's just fantastic that she overcame that and she did that. And that God would use some moron to help her with that was even more incredible. But she did it. And she celebrated that. She was really proud of that, and we should do that. And I think a lot of people, they go through those times and they're happy about them. But if you'll, I guarantee there's a lot of people that were super encouraged by seeing what she posted.
Well, and it's why, I mean, and the Facebook group can be a form of this, but that's why it's so important to journal, to write these things down and document them, so that the next time that comes up, when you write things down, it tends to put things to memory. For me, not so much nowadays. But writing this stuff down or typing it out, putting it on Facebook, so not only can it encourage others, but it's just also kind of puts it in your memory bank that next time this comes up, I've got a leg up on this problem the next time. And that's what this is all about. It's overcoming and getting better, whether it's our fitness life or it's our faith life. It's the same principles.
Yeah. Last question. Is running for me?
I ask myself this question too a lot. No.
Well,
yes, it is.
It definitely is for me, and certainly for Russell.
Sure.
You can see his joy in what he's doing, and that's pretty cool.
And again, I don't mean to cut you off, but we say running a lot, but it may be walking for you.
Yeah.
And walking is for me right now too.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing a little bit of both right now, because I do like to run, but I do like to walk. I'm kind of torn right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Russell in this case has had some major setbacks.
He has.
And he's still, it would be easy to go, well, that whole thigh issue, God was probably telling me I don't need to be running. No. Because that's a thing that's in his heart that he loves to do. Mm-hmm. And setbacks are good sometimes, and I think they were in this case, because I think he appreciates it more than he ever did before because of that. And obviously, if you're in Run Club, then running obviously must be for you, or walking, again, as you point out. But let me, I want to point this out too. If you think, a lot of people, if you're out there and you struggle to run, you may be looking at the Dean Thompsons of the world, and you may think, well, it's easy for him. Let me share something with you. You were with me yesterday. You saw me hobbling yesterday. My knee hurt bad yesterday. There were times when it surprised me how bad it hurt. And I could have said, okay, this knee hurts. But what I did was I went to a medical professional and said, will you look at my knee and just tell me whether or not there's anything seriously wrong with it? He looked at it. He said, no, I think you got some inflammation in there, but it's not, there's nothing major wrong. You're not going to hurt anything. So last night I got on a treadmill to run. I don't like the treadmill. I don't run on the treadmill. It's the first time I've run on the treadmill in over a year, but I ran on the treadmill anyway. It was better for my knee, and it was a struggle to run last night. You know what happened this morning? I woke up.
Knee feel better. My
knee almost doesn't hurt. I mean, it's almost 100% better. And I think that run yesterday was therapeutic for it. I think it was good for it to do that. And now I'm not saying that if something's hurting, it's better to run than not run. That's not what
you preface this with saying you went and saw a professional.
Yes.
First.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not easy. It's not easy no matter what pace you run. Running is hard. And if you think there's people out there that it's just easy for them, it's not. It's not.
But many times we will allow, I mean, yours was obviously different, but we'll allow a little ache to turn into this big thing, and we will rationalize ourselves out of workouts. We'll let this little bitty inconvenience in our schedule, we'll allow ourselves to rationalize ourselves out of our quiet time in the morning. This is a vicious cycle we can't allow, because this is the cycle that our society promotes nowadays.
Yeah.
And we can't allow that, because it will bleed over into every area of our lives. I mean, I probably shouldn't go here, but I mean the whole employment crisis that's going on in our culture right now. I mean, companies can't find people to work. They're out there. But our society has allowed them to rationalize not doing the hard thing. And by hard thing, I mean going to work.
Yeah.
For so many people out there, they're just not going, and there's no good reason they're just not going.
Yep.
And it's damaging our society. But my point in saying that is allowing this little thing in our running life or in our spiritual life will bleed over and manifest itself bigger in other areas of our life. It's a compounding effect, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And before you know it, we're on the couch, we're 60 pounds overweight, we're unemployed, and we're not looking for work. I mean, this is an extreme case, but that's where this leads to.
That's right.
If we allow it.
Yep.
And we need to nip it in the bud when our mind is saying, my side hurts, I don't need to run today. No.
Go run.
You need to go run.
Yep.
If it's something you're worried that could be medical, go see a doctor and then go run.
Yep. 100%. While you are working hard to keep your body in shape physically, the music you listen to while you run can help keep you in shape spiritually. We have partnered with J Radio to put together a group of running playlists by Mitchell, Lane, Holly, me, and others that you hear on the Run Club podcast. Plus, you can listen to a playlist put together by members of Run Club just like you. Check out the whole station of Run for God playlists now at jradio.com and in the J Radio app. All right, so we have a group of Couch to Marathon folks that is quite literally actually a little bit more than twice as big as we had last year, right? That's pretty awesome to see that many people. And I'm really excited about it. And I really think last year we had I think you and I talked about the number of people we thought we would have finish at the end. And I think that number was higher than we thought it would be.
Yeah, I think we went back and forth on the number because we really didn't.
Yeah.
We really didn't know. I mean, there's obviously attrition in a program like that, but we didn't know what it would be.
Yeah, but I was pleasantly surprised by the number of people that were at Disney running that specific. And there were many others.
The problem is we don't know. We still don't know how many people actually competed it because some, a lot of them finished at the Disney, some finished at other races, and then some are those quiet ones out there. They never post. But we know that they're listening and watching because every now and then they'll pop in and say something, and then they retreat back and they're gone again. So that's kind of our struggle sometimes is I really don't know how many people are actually doing this because I have a feeling there's some that they didn't put their name on the list.
Yeah.
And some people are just like that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I respect that. But yeah, we got a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right
and
now.
this time around, I feel like the attrition rate should be less this time because we've seen that it works. We have a history now to go back on, and I think last year it was kind of new, and so a lot of people thought, I don't know if I don't even know if this thing can work. Now we know, we know it works, and so I feel like
we don't really know the statistics on what is good or not. I mean, we had 1,700 people signed up the first night last January. And if I had to put my finger on it, we probably had 300 finish.
Yeah.
I mean, we had like 160 at Disney, something like that. But I mean, is that good? I don't know if that's good.
Yeah,
I feel like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think, 3 out of 17. I mean, what is that? 20-ish% or so.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty good.
I would think so.
I mean, because it is a big commitment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do 3 out of 17 people who, and just in our culture that say they're going to run a marathon, actually do it? I would say the number is lower than that. Just in society in general.
You're probably right. I hadn't thought about it from that point.
But if you allow yourself, you could think, well, that's terrible. Well, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I want to improve on it.
Yeah.
I want to get that number higher. But yeah, I'm happy with it.
That's awesome. All right, it's a time for Dean's Thoughts, and that's a time when I share something I've written about the intersection between running and faith. And so this week I thought I'd take some time to share about the Big Beach Marathon. I'm going to do it, and I'm doing it. I have done it on a Thursday night live session as well. So if you're hearing it more than once, I'm sorry. But I think it's something that we need to share.
No, you're not.
So, kind of. But here we go.
People need to hear it. People need to hear it.
That's right. So this is review of the Big Beach Marathon. When asked if I wanted to preview the Big Beach Marathon, I was excited and reluctant at the same time. I'm not a big fan of running the marathon, at least after running 15 or 20 of them. I knew I was signed up already to run the Disney Marathon, and then 6 days later I was supposed to run a marathon with one of my athletes for support. Getting in a third marathon of the month didn't sound appealing to me after having not run a marathon for a few years. Still, I was excited to see the venue for next year's Couch to Marathon group. Of course, when I agreed to run the race, I didn't realize how magical it was going to be to watch all those Run for God folks finish the Disney Marathon. Needless to say, I was pretty stoked to bring a report back on the Big Beach Marathon course because next year is going to be epic. And then, as fortune would have it, I came down with COVID in between Disney and Big Beach, so I didn't run the one in the middle. First of all, the people who organize the race are great people. We hope to have the race director on our podcast soon. I was able to participate in the Packet Pickup Palooza, as they called it, on the Saturday prior to race day. I met a lot of super cool people who shared many fantastic stories with me. It was a great opportunity to share the Run for God Run Club with people. It was a cool morning in the high 30s. I don't know what we can expect. I don't know that we can expect the same weather next year because this year it was perfect. When I finished, my singlet was almost completely dry, but I was not cold. That's how you know it was great weather. I believe it was around 50 degrees when I finished. The temperature climbed to about 59 in the middle of the day when many of the Run Club folks would finish. I would love to see the same weather next year. There's a lot of music, although secular, and the organizers are good at pumping everyone up before the start. It was a great race atmosphere, but not overwhelming, just the way I like it. The start is right next to the beach, but on the road. The first mile or two of the race are on a road going away from the beach. The last mile is also along the beach road, but those are the only miles run on the road. Everything else is run on paved paths, a few concrete paths, and boardwalks. One of my favorite things about the course is how peaceful it is. If you're someone who likes to have huge crowds cheering the entire way, it might be a little disappointing. There are many long stretches where you don't see anyone, but the canopy of trees and the insulation from cars and the hustle and bustle of the beach is great. There are certainly many places where people stand and cheer as runners go by, but the groups are small and not nearly as loud as the Disney Marathon. I just loved the me and God time as I ran through those quiet sections. I also saw a deer run across the path in front of me somewhere around 16 miles, I think. I also heard that someone else saw a bobcat. In addition, apparently during the summer months, there are gators and cottonmouths hanging out around the path. We are truly running through the wild. There are many long stretches of boardwalk to run on. I was running with a fellow Georgian in the first 10 miles, and he was very familiar with the area and the pass. He told me that there was a 2-mile section of boardwalk in the last few miles, and he thought it would slow everyone down. He was dead right. That long stretch of boardwalk was tough. But the toughest part was right at the end of the boardwalk, where there's a steep incline to get up to a bridge going over the road. Normally, it would be no big deal, but right at the end of the 25th mile, it was tough. The course takes you through parks, by the sportsplex, out near some highways, and through a campground twice. If you're a camper, you may want to check into camping there, as you would be set up close to the course. After the race, there was more music at a place called The Hangout. It was not Christian music, but if you're a fan of classic rock, the band who was playing was fantastic. I just zoned out in an Adirondack chair after the race, waiting for the awards ceremony, while listening to the guys play some great tunes. I also sat down to eat the post-race box lunch that the race provided for free. They had ham and turkey sandwiches, but if you ask nicely, they have veggie wraps for us strange plant-based food people. It hit the spot for sure. Although I have to say, getting up out of an Adirondack chair after sitting for 20 minutes, having just completed a marathon, was not the easiest thing I've ever done. As far as my race goes, it was a successful day. I spent much of the first 10 miles in 5th or 6th place. I like to walk through water stations, so they would pass me when I walked, and then I would catch them as I ran. I taught with a guy from Lawrenceville, Georgia for a while, between 4 and 10 miles. At 10 miles, I was a couple of minutes behind the leaders, and I picked up the pace just a little and went into 4th place for the next 12 miles. At about 20 miles, I saw the 3rd place guy, so I set my sights on him. It took me a couple of miles to catch him, and I was pretty excited about being in 3rd place. At that point, I was just concerned about putting some space between me and the guy I had just passed. But then at about 24 and a half miles, I saw the 2nd place runner. I caught him a little more quickly as I went into 2nd place with about a mile to go. I knew the poor guy I had just passed was suffering pretty badly, so I said a few words as I passed him to encourage him as much as I could. I've been there. It's tough watching helplessly as someone runs away from you late in a race. I was fortunate to be able to cross the finish line 2nd. God is good. As I talked with Mike, the race director, after the race, I told him that I thought this was going to be a perfect venue for our Couch to Marathon finishers next year. He is really looking forward to having us, which makes it even better. Disney was great and the experience was fantastic, but the truth is, they didn't mind having us there, but we were just another group of runners to them. At Big Beach, they will really appreciate us being there. As a matter of fact, when I was receiving my award, they told the entire crowd about Run for God and how you guys are going to be there next year. Let's see how many we can get there. It is going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
You paint a good word picture, Dean. Good job.
It was a good day. It was a good day, and again, I posted on if you're on the Facebook group, I posted a picture. That picture that I posted looks like a postcard or something. It looks like something I got from somewhere else.
Yeah,
that was a picture I took that morning before we got started.
So I got a question. One thing that stood out to me: why does the boardwalk slow people down?
There's a lot of turns in it.
Okay,
and then it's a little bit of up and down.
Okay.
And
so it's not necessarily the footing or anything like that.
No, the footing's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad. There's a few places where actually the asphalt is broken up a little bit, and but it's a pretty smooth. It's a pretty smooth run all the way through. So you know how boardwalks are. A lot of times getting up onto the boardwalks and then off of the boardwalks is there's usually a fairly steep on and off.
Sounds like a pretty fun course.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And again, I like a course that's very peaceful. And for me, it was just beautiful. Now, a lot of it's just kind of run basically through the woods. I mean, it's really in the woods.
So was it going down there, you thought you knew the course? Is it the course you thought it was?
It's a little bit different than I thought it was, but it's on the same paths that I knew it was. And then some others that I had never seen before. So it's amazing the number of miles of paths they have in this Gulf State Park is amazing.
Really?
And they're really nice. And there was a matter of fact, there's one stretch for a couple of miles where it's clear that there used to be a road going through there, and they had taken this road and they've kind of created a path out of the road. And so
kind of like the rails to trails you see.
Yeah. And I thought that was pretty cool. The problem is, that when they make these walking paths, they make them curved on purpose, so that they're not just straight. They're a little bit, and it looks nice. But when you're running, you don't want to be running around the curves. And
so we need to have a discussion on tangents then.
Yes, I was definitely working the tangents for sure. And there was a lot of opportunities for that. So, but yeah, I thought it was great that. Just the atmosphere was good. Again, is it fun to be at Disney where they're just pumping you up, just big and huge? And yeah, I guess that's fun. And for a lot of people, they really, really love that. But I like the one person standing up there and saying, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's about the level I like it. And that's the level that it was.
Yeah.
And so, I'm excited about it.
So you got to meet Mike then.
I did get to meet Mike.
I think we're going to have him on the podcast at some point. He's got a really cool story. I've talked to Mike on the phone, never actually met him in person.
Yeah.
But sounds like a really great guy. He's got a good team behind him. So, I think everybody's going to be everybody's going to enjoy both the Big Beach Marathon and the Cannonball Run, which is the half marathon that if everybody can join us at. Hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, we'll have the discount codes for both races where people can start getting registered. Like I said, they've made an agreement with us that not only will they give all of our runners a discount to the race, but they're also going to make a contribution to Run for God for every runner that signs up. So it's kind of a win-win all the way around. So don't get registered till you get those discount codes. We'll be sending those out pretty shortly, if not before this podcast actually airs. Yeah, and I've had people ask me about it, so make sure you don't do that until you get those codes. Yeah. One of the things that was interesting about this race, and that I've been running for a long time. I am an elderly gentleman. I don't know about the gentleman part, but I am the first part. And so one of my college athletes had run a marathon a couple of weeks prior to the one that I was supposed to run with her, but I couldn't because I had COVID, and that is frowned upon, apparently. Yeah. But anyway, she ran that marathon. She knocked it out of the park. Yeah. She ran great. Well, she had done something that I didn't ask her to do the week before when she ran a much longer run than I would have advocated for her to run. And so, but I was like, you know what? All she really wanted to do is finish this marathon. And I knew she would. Mm-hmm. And that was fine. But she really ran really well, without really killing herself. And so I got to thinking about it. I thought, I'm going to try something a little bit different for this marathon. So the week before the marathon, I did a 15 miler and I did 10 miles at marathon pace. In the middle of that 15 miles, which is something I would never do a workout that strenuous the week before a race.
But I thought, I'm going to try it and just see how my body handles it, right? Because it worked well for her. Let me try that. Well, you know what? I don't know if it helped or not. But I ran faster there than I did at Disney 3 weeks prior.
Well, you and I both have had an education on this the past couple of years that some people respond better to bigger, harder volume and intensity workouts. You know, I think it's opened my eyes the past few years at what we've dealt with Lane, and I mean even Riley doing that run beforehand. You kind of cringe when you see it. I mean, you're like, oh well. But I just think, we've talked about the concept of there's Formula One cars and there's diesel engines. And, that's two very different kinds of athletes, and some athletes need the bigger, harder, where other athletes need the shorter, faster, and can't necessarily handle the bigger, harder. It's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just different. Yeah. And I think I'm starting to really see that vividly, just in looking at Lane and some guys around him, that there's definitely a contrast in those two athletes. When they get to the race venue, it all comes together for both of them. But so many times coaching philosophy has been focused at more the Formula One and thought that it's bad to do the bigger, higher volume coming into race time. And for some people, it's just not the case. Lane, for instance, performs best at the end of pretty big blocks of training. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to hammer that fellow just to death. I mean, he gets to the point where he's just completely worn out, and he runs well.
He ran a PR
that way. Yeah. Well, and my point here too, for me, is you're never too old to continue to experiment and try new things. I love to try new things. It's why it's now getting close to 2 years since I started this plant-based diet. It was because I said, you know what, I'm going to try for 30 days. I'm going to try this thing. I'm just going to see how it goes. Yeah. And now I've changed. It's changed my life, literally. And I just don't be afraid to try new things. Is all I'm saying. Whatever it is, whether it's running related or anything else related, don't be afraid. We get in these comfort zones where I had a comfort zone for how I handled the last 2 weeks before every marathon. And as, again, 56 years old, I'm like, let's try something different. Let's see how it goes.
And but the what we tend to do in those comfort zones is we'll rationalize not getting out of them.
That's right.
I mean, when I met you, you were Crystal Burger, Diet Coke. You had 2 cases of Diet Coke in the back of your car at all times.
That's right.
And you even rationalized that back then.
Sure.
But now you've broken out of that, and you see, wow, there's something to getting out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a lesson for all of us.
Yeah, and when you try new things, make sure you give it the opportunity to work. I think we talked about it on the podcast about how you have to be open to whatever happens. You have to be objective, I guess, is the best way to look at it. And so, when you try new things, be super objective. I had to be super objective about the plant-based thing because I don't even know if I wanted it to work. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things where you're like, I don't know if I want, I like to eat burgers. I love burgers. Right. And so it was like, but now I'm like, does it bother me not to eat burgers? Not a bit. Wow. Not at all. So, yeah. So anyway, I think this Big Beach Marathon is going to be great. One of the cool things about this is down that last 100 meters or so, the finish line, there's plenty of space for Run Club members to line up on this sidewalk and cheer everybody on coming in.
Yeah, Disney kind of keeps you away.
Yeah, because it's because there's so many people, right, and it is so big. This one, you watch them finish, and then 12 feet later, they're past the finish line, and you could go over there and hug them. Yeah. Disney, that you had to walk for half a mile to get through so I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I can't wait.
If you've ever participated in any sport, you've probably met a great coach. Great coaches inspire us to do more than we ever thought possible. You can be the leader that helps others achieve things they never thought possible. You have the ability and the opportunity to be that person. All you need is a heart to help people and the ability to follow a plan. The Run for God 5K Challenge will come ready to help you inspire those around you. The step-by-step guide will direct you how to plan, pray, and train people both physically and spiritually. You can help them become more fit in their health and in their walk with Christ. Share your passion. Go to runforgod.com to find out how to inspire others to accomplish big things.
All right, we're back. And last week we had the Milrose Games, which is probably the most famous indoor meet on the planet. It's up in New York. I was surprised they had it because, all the COVID stuff and everything and crazy. But anyway, but they did. And then Nick Willis, who has run, he just completed something. He ran 359.6 something, I think it was, just under 4. And this was the 20th year in a row that Nick Willis has run a sub 4 minute mile.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy? I just think that's fantastic. And, I've been trying to do the whole sub 5 minute mile thing, over 40 years apart. Makes that look weak. That just looks so weak.
I mean, sub 4 minute miles still to this day are fairly rare.
Yeah.
And for somebody to do it 20 years, did you see what Davis ran?
No.
356.
Did he?
Yeah,
Wow.
getting fast.
Nice. Yeah.
It's a friend of ours, or a guy that races some lane. But 20 years in a row, sub 4. That's insane.
It is. It's unbelievable. Yep. Christian Coleman. I don't know how many people that we have listening to this who pay any attention to sprinters at all, but Christian Coleman, he had been suspended and he came back. This was his first race back, and he won the 60 because he's a 60. He's great out of the blocks, and he won it by 100th of a second over Trayvon Bromell. So I didn't see it, but that had to be a photo finish. They probably had to take a minute to figure that one out. But
that's the width of a t-shirt.
Yeah, but it's good to see him back. It's funny how America has always dominated the sprints. We've always been great at the sprints, not so much the middle distance and distance running. You got to go back to, I guess, Jim Ryan before you saw a middle distance runner that really dominated on the world stage. We've had some good ones.
Yeah.
But somebody who was really on top of it was, I guess, Jim Ryan. Yeah. I think it's our culture. Here's something. Here's my theory. Here's my theory about why we're better sprinters than better distance runners. You ready for this? So, what's the biggest sport in our country?
Football. Football,
right? Why is football so big? Well, here's why I think football is so big. Because football is, like they call it, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's a lot of action for about 10, 20 seconds and then rest.
About the length of our attention span.
Exactly. That's the way we're wired in America.
Yeah.
Is we're wired. We love intensity, and so we get super intense, and we get to rest for a minute until it gets intense again.
And then there's the other football.
Yeah.
Where you bang your head. I mean, I can't watch one because it'll go an hour before somebody actually scoring or any action,
or maybe not at all. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I watch soccer a little bit, but I don't enjoy soccer like I do football because I think we're just wired that way. Now in other countries, obviously soccer is the biggest sport in the world, and so in other countries, I mean, they watch soccer like we do football, and even more so.
Oh yeah.
And that's great. But I think that's why. I think we're wired for these short, intense things. And so we're wired more towards sprinting than distance running, because sprinting is more like a football game and distance running is more like a soccer game. I don't know. That's my theory.
Yeah. I'll never forget when we were in Ecuador. Lane had a race down there, and we were in Ecuador, and it was during the World Cup. And you see this in kind of older movies. You really don't see it that much in America today, and there's a lot of reasons for this. I think we just don't rally as a country. We don't rally behind any one thing anymore, and I think that's that's not good. But in other countries, they still do. I remember we were in Ecuador, and Ecuador was doing really well in the World Cup. And I remember we walked down the street in, I can't even remember the name of the, Salinas, Ecuador. And they have the old shops where you raise up the piece of plywood. I mean, it's a fairly poor city, but, you know, all the shops along this road will, every single shop, I mean, it's basically plywood shacks is their business. They have this 4x8 sheet of plywood that opens up, and that's the door to be able to get in. But in every one of these, they had a big screen TV. Every one of these little shacks, they had a big screen TV, and nobody was manning the cash registers or anything. Every single place you went, everybody was glued to the TV. Yeah. And for that football, it's like it brings entire countries together. Yeah, cheering. And that is the cool thing about that football, where, you know, in America, our football, we're bickering with each other, and you know, so many things go into it. But that's pretty cool about that soccer. Yeah,
but I do think that's part of what makes America great. The fact that we do love that intensity. Sure, I think that helps make America. Well, we're different than everybody else in the world. And I think that's part of the reason. Yeah. All right, how about a trivia question for this week? The 1982 Boston Marathon was special. So special, it has a special name. What do people call the 1982 Boston Marathon? Why is it called that? And who were the two people involved in the main storyline? Do you know this one?
I was 4, Dean. No, I don't know this one. No, I really don't. I'm surprised. It seems like it's going to be kind of obvious. Yeah, maybe when I hear the answer, but I don't know the answer.
You've heard me talk about it.
Really?
Oh yeah. There's a book by the name of this.
I have to think it's some kind of epic battle.
Oh my goodness!
But I don't know what it is.
Maybe the greatest ever. So if you know the answer to that, or if you can find the answer to that, you can email me at dean@runforgod.com, and the first person will send you out a nice Run for God Run Club tumbler. Mm-hmm. Now, you have to be first, and I'm just telling you, last week we had a bunch of answers, so you got to be pretty quick.
Quick on the draw.
Yep. All right, every week I share a reason why running is so awesome. This is this week. You never stop learning. You know, again, I just talked about how I just tried something different this past race. I've run a gazillion races. I have no idea how many races I've run, but it is definitely in the thousands. And I tried something different. I mean, I've been running for well over 40 years, and I'm still learning. And I think that's really cool that you never stop learning. So running seems so simple, and the act of running is simple, but there's so much depth to it at the same time. I just think that's one of the cool things about running. Mm-hmm. And then every week we have a motivational thought. And the motivational thought this year comes from Ricky Rogers, who is a writer and a marketing director. And it says this: strength doesn't come from what you can do. It comes from overcoming the things you once thought you couldn't.
Good word. It kind of goes along with the whole podcast today.
It does. It really does.
It's a good word.
Yeah. Some people are born with great ability, you know, and for those people, doing something outstanding is just kind of par for the course. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just have people that are just wired that way. But if you can do these ordinary things that are really difficult for you, now whatever that thing is for you, it's worth 100 of those things that don't take us to that difficult place. Sure. These folks that are going through the 5K challenge, who can't imagine running for 3 miles or walking for 3 miles or whatever the goal is. And go into this with some faith that's saying, I'm going to try it anyway. Doing that thing, it'll just make you so much stronger.
It's why when you come to our races, the finish line is louder for the last place finisher than it is for the first. Yeah. Because chances are that first place finisher, that's what they normally do. Yeah. Chances are the last place finisher thought they would never do that.
That's right.
And that's what's so cool. That's what brings people to tears at our finish line is seeing the emotion usually on that last place finisher. I mean, I don't think we've ever had a last place finisher that wasn't crying coming through the finish line. Yeah. Maybe except for the one that Landon raced her at the end and she was laughing. She couldn't stand it. But other than that one, I think everybody was crying. So it's, I mean, it's a great quote, a great sentiment, and something we all can learn from.
Yeah, I think about, like, for me to run a marathon it's really not a huge deal to just run a marathon, just to finish a marathon. And so that's not outside my comfort zone to do that. But for the person who it is outside their comfort zone, that's so much more special. I noticed that when I finished Disney, there weren't really any tears. But when some of those other people finished toward the end, there were some serious tears.
Yeah.
And it makes it special when it's hard. All right. Keep up the great work, and may God bless every step of every run and walk. Go out there and shine your light.
Good job, Dean.
For more information about the Run for God ministry, go to runforgod.com. If you have questions about your salvation, click on the Peace with God tab. There's nothing more important. Thanks for joining us today.